Well, hello there and welcome to World News Program coming to you live from Algiers on All 24 News Channel. I'm your host, Zachary, and up next are the top stories. Hezbollah announces leader Hassan Nasrallah killed in Zionist airstrikes, vowing to continue the fight for Gaza. And Lebanese factions and Hamas mourn him, stating his death would strengthen their resolve. Lebanese records 1,640 martyrs from Zionist raids since October 8th. And recent airstrikes leave many dead and injured, prompting Hezbollah to retaliate by targeting Zionist military bases. Also in our news, hospitals in southern Beirut are evacuating due to ongoing Zionist raids, leaving displaced people sleeping on the streets. And the UN reports unprecedented humanitarian needs in Lebanon, while FAO warns of food supply disruptions. And in 48 hours, 52 Palestinians were martyred in 4 Zionist massacres, including bombings in El Maghazi and Nusayrat. A Palestinian was also killed by Zionist fire during an arrest in Nablus, while clashes erupted in the occupied West Bank and occupation forces stormed various areas. More details right after the break. Hello again and welcome back to the program. Beginning with the headline, Hezbollah has announced the martyrdom of its Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah following Zionist raids on the party's Central Command headquarters in southern Beirut on Friday evening. In a statement, Hezbollah mourned Nasrallah, describing him as a great martyr and a heroic leader who guided the party through nearly 30 years of victories.
His Eminence, the leader of the resistance, the righteous servant, has moved to the abode of his Lord and his bounty as a great martyr, a brave, heroic leader, a wise, insightful, and faithful believer. His Eminence Hassan Nasrallah, Secretary General of Hezbollah, joined the great and immortal martyrs whose path he headed for nearly 30 years, during which he led them from victory to victory, succeeding the leader of the martyrs of the Islamic resistance in 1992 until the liberation of Lebanon in 2000 and until the glorious divine victory in 2006 and all the other battles of honor and sacrifice, up till the battle of Bakken and heroism in support of Palestine, Gaza, and the oppressed Palestinian people.
In the same statement, following the martyrdom of Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah, Hezbollah pledged to continue its path of jihad in support of Gaza and Palestine to defend Lebanon and its people.
The leadership of Hezbollah pledges to the highest, holiest, and most precious martyr in our path, which is full of sacrifices and martyrs, to continue its struggle in confronting the Zionist enemy in support of Gaza and Palestine, and in defense of Lebanon and its steadfast and honorable people.
Over a 30-year career, Hassan Nasrallah emerged as the most influential figure in Lebanon and the region. Through consensus among allies and opponents, he transformed Hezbollah into a key player in the Middle East since the early 1990s, solidifying its prominent role in regional politics. Here's Yassine Rikti with more details.
إذا عاود الإسرائيلي قصف القرى والمدنيين عندنا ستعاود المقاومة الإسلامية قصف المستعمرات بالكاتيوش.
Born in 1960, Nasrallah grew up in Beirut's Eastern Burj Mahmoud neighborhood. Known as the Son of War and one of the most influential figures in the Middle East, he has successfully transformed his party into a significant player in the Middle East since the early 90s, gaining recognition from both allies and opponents. Hassan Nasrallah has assumed the post of Secretary General of the party since 1992. Supported by several countries, including Iran, he has successfully turned Hezbollah into an indispensable political power, represented in parliament and the government. The leader of Hezbollah emerged as a key figure, particularly following the liberation of southern Lebanon in 2000 and after the 2006 war. He is recognized for his role in prisoner exchange with Israeli occupation and his military operations against it. Throughout his career, the Hezbollah leader has been a primary target of the Zionist murder attempts. He reduced his public appearances, fearing for his safety after the assassination of his son and his predecessor, Abbas al-Musawi. Following the Zionist aggression on Gaza on October 7, 2023, Nasrallah supported Al-Aqsa flood operation and undertook military actions against Zionist positions. Threatening the Zionist occupation of fierce revenge on its attacks against Lebanon, a week before his assassination by the Zionist occupation, Nasrallah stated,
"The resistance in Lebanon will not stop supporting the people of Gaza and the West Bank, who are oppressed in that holy land. We will fairly and severely punish the aggressors. We will target them from where they expect and from where they don't."
Hassan Nasrallah, a name that will resonate forever in the minds of the Lebanese and the whole world. He will remain as a beacon of resistance, illuminating the path of his successes.
Lebanese factions across the spectrum mourned the martyrdom of Hassan Nasrallah, urging the continuation of resistance against Zionist occupation. The Amal movement stated that Nasrallah's loss would not deter the fight for Lebanon against Zionist aggression. Talal Arslan, head of the Lebanese Democratic Party, emphasized the need for steadfastness rather than sorrow, while the Progressive Socialist Party condemned the actions leading to Nasrallah's martyrdom and called for unity among Lebanese to confront the occupation. The Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement Hamas mourned the martyrdom of Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah, asserting that his assassination will only strengthen the resistance against the occupation. In a statement, Hamas condemned the act as a heinous crime and a massacre, highlighting the Zionist occupation as a rogue entity threatening international security and global inaction. The movement also held the U.S. administration responsible for the ongoing Zionist crimes, emphasizing that targeting resistance leaders will only bolster the determination to defeat the occupation.
History has proven that resistance against the Zionist enemy, with all its factions and in all its locations, only grows stronger as its leaders fall as martyrs. They are succeeded by a generation of leaders who are even more determined, resilient, and committed to continuing the confrontation with this Zionist enemy until it is defeated and removed from our land and region. We are confident and certain that this crime, along with all the crimes and assassinations committed by the occupation, will only strengthen the resolve and determination of the resistance in Lebanon and Palestine to continue on the path of resistance and steadfastness until victory and the defeat of the occupation.
In the same context, Iraq has declared 3 days of mourning following the martyrdom of Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah. Prime Minister Mohammed Shia Sudani called for nationwide mourning after Nasrallah and several companions were assassinated by the Zionist forces, as reported by the Iraqi news agency. The martyrdom of Hassan Nasrallah is seen as a turning point in the Middle East, raising concerns of an imminent regional war. This comes as the Zionist occupation continues its crimes and expands its massacres across various fronts, including Gaza and the West Bank, as well as Lebanon. More on this story with Islam Said now.
Fears of a broader conflict in the Middle East are escalating amid a sharp increase in Zionist airstrikes, resulting in a rising number of martyrs and injuries among Palestinians and Lebanese. The international community is witnessing over 41,000 Palestinian martyrs as the Zionist occupation intensifies its campaign against civilians in both Palestine and Lebanon. On Saturday alone, Zionist strikes on Lebanon resulted in 33 deaths and 195 injuries adding to the 1,600 casualties reported in recent days. Hospitals in southern Lebanon are overwhelmed with the influx of the injured from these airstrikes, which occupying Israel claims are aimed at strategic Hezbollah positions. The recent assassination of Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, has sparked widespread protests in Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, Palestine, Yemen and Jordan, with protesters mourned his death and called for retaliation against Zionist occupation and its allies. As the US continues to provide military support to the Zionist entity, ironically enough, Secretary of State Antony Blinken emphasized that the only path to resolving the explosive situation in the Middle East is through diplomacy, not conflict.
The United States has made clear, along with the G7, the European Union, partners in the Gulf, so many other regions, that we believe the way forward is through diplomacy, not conflict.
Meanwhile, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov expressed concerns that the Zionist occupation might be attempting to provoke Iran, potentially dragging the US into a regional conflict.
It's not simply a political assassination, but it's a very cynical as an act. There was a strike on the Iranian consulate in Syria, and Iranian citizens died there as well. And now Nasrallah. So it's not what I think, but a lot of people say that Israel wants to create the grounds to drag the US indirectly into this. And so to create these grounds is trying to provoke Iran and Hezbollah. So the Iran leadership, I think, are behaving extremely responsibly, and this is something that we should take due note of.
Concrete actions against these Zionist atrocities remain limited, with political paralysis in the UN Security Council hindering effective intervention.
Still with the same file, Lebanese Health Minister Firas Abyad announced that 1,640 people have been martyred and 8,408 injured due to the Zionist aggression since October 8th. During a press conference, Abyad revealed that at least 11 martyrs and 108 injuries occurred on Friday alone from the ongoing bombings. He highlighted 2 massacres at medical centers that resulted in 7 deaths and 4 injuries among health workers, raising the total of medical personnel to 41 martyrs and 111 injured. Similarly, at least 11 Lebanese were killed and others injured on Sunday in new Zionist airstrikes in Baalbek Governorate. Reports indicate that 5 people died and 5 others were injured in a massacre in Shamstar, while 4 others were killed in raids on El Khader. Additionally, 2 were killed and 1 injured in Al Wad neighborhood of Baalbek. In Nabatieh, 11 medical personnel were killed and 19 injured when Zionist airstrikes targeted civil defense centers and clinics. The Lebanese news agency reported as well that the casualties included doctors, nurses, and paramedics from the Islamic Health Authority. Zionist raids on the southern suburbs of Beirut have resulted in at least 8 martyrs and numerous injuries, according to preliminary reports from the Lebanese news agency. Medical sources indicate that the death toll may rise as over 400 people are still trapped under the rubble of collapsed buildings. Rescue and civil defense teams are working to reach them, while debris removal operations continue in the affected areas, including Harit Reik. The Zionist Air Force unleashed a heavy wave of raids on the southern suburb of Beirut late Friday and early Saturday, marking the most violent assault since the start of the Israeli aggression on Lebanon. Reports indicate that over 30 raids targeted buildings in El Kafat, El Shuaifat, and El Hadat and El Lailki, igniting fires in several structures and causing significant damage. Hezbollah has rejected Israeli allegations of weapons and ammunition stores in buildings targeted during the ongoing aggression on southern Beirut. The party's media relations office stated that these claims are false and baseless, asserting that the Israeli bombing was directed at civilian structures and headquarters on purpose. Hezbollah announced as well that it targeted the Ramat David base and airport in the occupied Palestinian territories using 3 Fatih missiles. In a statement, the group also confirmed its attack on the Kabri settlement near Lebanon's southern border, asserting that these actions were in support of Palestine, in defense of Lebanon, and in retaliation for the Zionist violations against cities, villages, and civilians. Meanwhile, the Lebanese Ministry of Health announced plans to evacuate hospitals in the southern suburbs of Beirut due to the unprecedented escalation of the Zionist aggression in the region. In a statement, the ministry urged hospitals in Beirut, Mount Lebanon, and unaffected areas to hold non-emergency admissions until the end of next week. This move aims to accommodate patients from the southern suburbs, which will be evacuated, and to prepare health care facilities for the wounded and the displaced.
The number, extent, and severity of the injuries that we have seen, which I believe the whole world has seen, are terrifying. The medical and nursing staff are overwhelmed, and we appeal to international organizations for help. Our survival depends on it.
And on Friday evening, hundreds of Lebanese families fled their homes due to intense Zionist missile strikes on southern suburbs of Beirut. The displaced sought refuge on streets and roads as thousands were forced to abandon their properties, moving towards the coastal areas in the western parts of the capital. Nabil Khazini reports now.
While the sound of shelling fills the air in different parts of Lebanon, the bombardment forces these people into the unknown. With each explosion, the emergency grows. The United Nations warned that a new humanitarian crisis is unfolding in Lebanon, as the number of those displaced by the conflict from southern Lebanon has more than doubled, with over 200,000 people now displaced.
This is not acceptable. Is it reasonable that everyone is being displaced? They are bombing all of Lebanon and the whole world is silent. Are we Arabs worth nothing? If a pigeon flew over from Lebanon to Israel, it will cause endless turmoil. If a paper plane flew over to Israel, it will cause endless turmoil. But for us, everyone is displaced, and the whole world is silent about it. The United Nations and everyone is silent, as if we are not human beings.
At a time when the crisis and its serious repercussions affect all residents, the picture appears darker for the Syrians already seeking shelter in Lebanon. According to Lebanese government estimates, there are 1.5 million Syrian refugees there. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees says that 90% of them live in a state of extreme poverty.
There are no relief or registration centers for Syrians. We are all Syrians. We fled from the south towards here in Sidon, from Nabatea area in the south. The people are staying in the streets, and there are no services or anything. We call upon the United Nations and the international agencies to intervene.
Equipped with nothing, not even a mattress to sleep on, they stay close to their loved ones, waiting for nothing except for the bombings and raids to end.
The United Nations Office for Humanitarian Affairs in Lebanon reported on Saturday that humanitarian needs have reached unprecedented levels, with resources severely depleted due to Israeli aggression. In a statement, the UN emphasized the urgent need for support to protect civilians amid intensive raids. The acting UN Emergency Relief Coordinator has allocated $10 million in emergency funding, while the UN coordinator in Lebanon described the situation as catastrophic. And Abdul Hakim Al-Wayer, Assistant Director General and Regional Representative of the Food and Agriculture Organization FAO, has warned of a looming food shortage in Lebanon. He stated that wheat cultivation, which the FAO was collaborating on with the Lebanese Ministry of Agriculture, has come to a complete halt now due to the ongoing conflict. Al-Wayer noted that the war's expansion and the closure of vital facilities are likely to disrupt food supplies from abroad. Recent data from August revealed that the aggression has prevented farmers from cultivating 17 million square meters of agricultural land. The Algerian embassy in Beirut announced that it is preparing and organizing the repatriation of its nationals in Lebanon. In a statement on Saturday, the embassy urged Algerian citizens who have not yet reached out to send their request promptly to facilitate the process. The embassy reassured the community that it will maintain constant communication and address their concerns during these challenging circumstances. And now let's move on to the file of Gaza and the genocide there. First off in this file, Israeli occupation forces have carried out 4 new massacres in the Gaza Strip, resulting in the martyrdom of 52 Palestinians and injuring 118 others within just 48 hours. The Palestinian Ministry of Health reported that the overall death toll from the ongoing aggression on Gaza has now reached 41,586, with 96,210 others injured since the conflict began on October 7th. Four Palestinians were martyred early Saturday due to Zionist shelling of Al-Maghazi and Nusayrat camps in the central Gaza Strip, coinciding with the demolition of residential buildings in Gaza City. Local sources reported that civil defense crews recovered 2 martyrs and several wounded from a shelling that hit a home belonging to the Harb family in Nusayrat. Additionally, 2 more Palestinians were killed in artillery fire targeting Salah ad-Din Street and the area separating Al-Maghazi and Al-Burayj camps. A Palestinian was martyred on Saturday after being shot by Israeli occupation forces during a raid on a house in Al Ain camp in Nablus, northern occupied West Bank, that is. The Palestinian Prisoners Affairs Authority and the Palestinian Prisoners Club confirmed the martyrdom of Walid Ahmed Khalifa, who was arrested from his home last Thursday. They reported that the number of martyred prisoners has now reached 25 since October 7th and 262 since 1967, not including those from Gaza, whose identities remain concealed. Israeli occupation forces stormed multiple areas in the occupied West Bank on Saturday as well, resulting in violent confrontations with Palestinians. Raids involved bulldozers and occurred in the Balata camp near Nablus, the town of Jabba south of Jenin, Azun east of Kalklia, and Akbat Jaber camp in Ariha, where a house was ransacked. Extensive search operations lasted several hours, and reports indicate that several Palestinians were injured near Al-Ouja, requiring transfer to Ariha Governmental Hospital. Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Mustafa condemned the UN Security Council for leaving Palestinian children, women, and the elderly unprotected from the crimes as well as the massacres of the Israeli occupation. Speaking at a high-level Security Council meeting convened by Algeria, Mustafa criticized the Council's actions, stating that its responses have been limited to condemnation without reinforcing mechanisms to ensure compliance with international resolutions.
It has been a year of the Israeli government's intransigence, and it has also been a year of the inhuman double standards of this council, which has left our children, women, elderly, men, doctors, journalists, teachers and staff without protection or assistance, as if they were not human beings. We came to the United Nations and witnessed the great solidarity with our people and their just cause, but we are leaving it, and the Israeli massacres have not stopped. The Security Council has not yet curbed the Israeli aggression, nor has it adopted measures that would curb the Israeli government, which sees war and aggression as a political strategy to remain in power.
And in other development, but still in the Middle East, the Yemeni Houthi group announced that U.S.-British coalition aircraft conducted 2 air raids on Sada Governorate in northern Yemen on Friday evening. According to the Houthis, a coalition drone targeted areas north of Sada city during the strikes. And the Yemeni Houthi group announced on Saturday that it launched a Palestine II ballistic missile at Jaffa airport. Military spokesman Yahya Sari confirmed that the attack coincided with Zionist Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's arrival at Ben Gurion airport, stating it was a response to the crimes of the Israeli occupation in Gaza and Lebanon.
The missile force of the Yemeni armed forces launched an operation targeting Jaffa airport, called Ben Gurion by Israel, during the arrival of the criminal Benjamin Netanyahu. The operation was carried out using a Palestine II ballistic missile.
And in other topical developments, Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf continued his diplomatic engagements on Saturday in New York, meeting with various foreign ministers on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. He discussed strengthening bilateral relations with Brazilian Foreign Minister Mauro Vieira, focusing on potential collaboration. Attaf also held talks with Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Gil Pinto, praising the progress of their bilateral cooperation and mutual political coordination. Additionally, he met Kuwaiti Foreign Minister Abdullah Ali Al Yahya to explore ways to enhance economic ties and summoned the Algerian-Kuwaiti Joint Committee. Lastly, Attaf engaged with Bosnia and Herzegovina's Foreign Minister Elmedin Konakovic to discuss improving diplomatic representation and cooperation in energy and economic sectors. Similarly, Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf met with Ukrainian counterpart Andrei Sabiha to review the latest developments in the Ukrainian crisis. According to a statement from the Algerian Foreign Ministry, the two ministers also explored ways to enhance political dialogue and strengthen economic relations between Algeria and Ukraine. During discussions on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly, Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf and U.S. Deputy Secretary of State John Bass lauded the strong political dialogue between their countries. The Algerian Foreign Ministry highlighted the significant advancement in economic cooperation, reflecting the growing partnership between Algeria and the United States. Niger's Minister of Petroleum, Sahabi Umaru, arrived in Algeria on Saturday with a key delegation to discuss strengthening energy sector ties. Welcomed by Algerian Energy Minister Mohamed Arqab at Houari Boumediene Airport, Umaru's visit includes meetings and tours of energy facilities and training institutes. The The Algerian Ministry of Energy and Mines emphasized that this visit underscores the growing relationship between the two nations, aimed at advancing joint projects like the Trans-Sahara gas pipeline and research initiatives by Sonatrach. Vice President Kamala Harris is taking aim at rival Donald Trump on his home ground, visiting the Mexican border in Douglas, Arizona. There, she vowed to reform the immigration system to ensure it operates in an orderly manner and humane, and ultimately makes the country stronger.
We must reform our immigration system to ensure that it works in an orderly way, that it is humane, and that it makes our country stronger. And so even though Donald Trump tried to sabotage the border security bill, it is my pledge to you that as President of the United States, I will bring it back up and proudly sign it into law.
And during the United Nations General Assembly in New York, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken held discussion with Chinese counterpart Wang Yi. Wang condemned the U.S. for what he termed the suppression of China's economy and emphasized the need for a respectful dialogue between the two nations. Still in America, but this time Latin America, in Santiago Domingo, hundreds of Dominicans marched to the National Palace, urging President Luis Abinader to implement stricter measures against massive illegal immigration from Haiti. Angelo Vasquez, leader of the organizing right-wing movement, stated our country can no longer tolerate one more illegal immigrant.
We represent the Dominican people here, and we call on the President to take measures against the massive illegal immigration we are experiencing, so that the laws are respected. Our country can no longer tolerate one more illegal immigrant, one more birth, or allow Dominican children to continue being replaced in schools. We also ask that the President make a decision regarding all the NGOs and international organizations that are trying to influence the state's decision to no longer recognize our country, as they undermine national sovereignty.
And finally in our news, the award-winning Algerian movie 196 Meters entices many Algerian cinema enthusiasts for the film screening at the Ibn Zaydoun Theatre in Algiers. Our own Sofiane Kantouri went there and came back with this report.
The city of Algiers witnessed the highly anticipated premiere of the film Algiers 196 Meters, which is being hailed as one of the strongest cinematic works of the year. Filming for Algiers 196 Meters began in 2022, showcasing the city's unique landscape and culture. The Algerian Commission, appointed by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, carefully curated the film as part of its official submission.
We wanted, first and foremost, a film made by Algerians for Algerians, a film produced entirely in Algeria, talented actors, and as you can see that we have endless talent in the field of acting in Algeria. Everything is beautiful, especially the set design and everything else.
I would like to thank the director for the artistic vision and creativity he brought to the film. And I would like also to extend my thanks to the Ministry of Culture and Arts for supporting such production. The committee had watched the film. Now the film is nominated to represent Algeria at the Oscars, and we hope for great success, God willing.
Actors and audiences have embraced the film, praising its high production quality. This reception highlights its potential as a strong Oscar contender, showcasing the path and richness of Algerian storytelling.
We saw an excellent film, a very good film, an Algerian film, 100% Algerian. A beautiful story. I want to start by congratulating the director, the actors, the technicians, and above all I want to thank them for honoring us in many festivals, and especially for aiming at the Oscars after such a long time.
Algerian cinema has a strong track record on the international stage, and Algiers 196 Meters reinforces the country's reputation in global filmmaking.
And with this, ladies and gentlemen, our news comes to a close. For more, you can always follow us on our social media platforms. Thank you for watching and tuning into our channel. Until next time, have a good one.